Hey there, in this video we are talking about Google AdSense CPC. If you're in this video, you may be here because you had a site that was earning really well and then all of a sudden the CPC went down. Or maybe you're new to AdSense and you just want to learn more about CPC or what impacts the cost per click rate that you get paid when a visitor on your site clicks on an ad. You may also see that your CPC is bouncing up and down, up and down, up and down, and you're really unsure of why that is. So this is just a video that's part tutorial and part me discussing what it is that's going on with one of my sites and why it is that I'm currently looking at this issue myself. If you are in AdSense and you've never actually looked at the CPC on your site or you have no idea what it is, it shows in reports. And this is just a screenshot from one of my sites that I recently purchased through Empire Flippers, and I'm looking at the CPC. And the site earns quite a bit for what it is and for what the traffic is, simply because there are a lot of people that go through it. But the cost per click that we get paid every time somebody clicks is fairly low. And when you say the CPC here in the in your AdSense report isn't necessarily what the advertiser is paying per click. Remember, you get paid a percentage of what it is that the advertiser pays Google. So the CPC that you see in your report is what you get paid, but it isn't necessarily what the advertiser is paying. I just want to throw that out there. So for me, on this site, you can see that for this report, for this time frame, the CPC is bouncing up and down between 8 and 10 and 11 cents per click, which is not an extraordinary amount of money, honestly. And if it were only a couple of clicks a day, it would be a fairly low earning site. I managed to make money with this site by just driving a lot of traffic through it, and primarily just content driven. I don't pay for traffic at this point because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's the value, what it would cost to drive traffic through the site. I mean, I would have to drive so much traffic through it to try to earn my money back through arbitrage. So when we're looking at CPC, you know, if you don't know anything about it, remember in Google AdSense, just directly in their help section, it's completely market driven. And so we as publishers, you know, we generally, I mean, you can reduce people who, advertisers who want to spend less for ads. But for the most part, CPC is market driven. And it depends more on what advertisers want to do and what keywords they're targeting and what they are willing to pay. Another thing you have to remember if you are watching your AdSense revenues go up and down is that most advertisers work on budgets that are quarter-based, quarter-driven. So you will see fluctuations at the beginning and the end of the quarters because they have a specific budget that they need to spend, and they don't want to spend everything in the beginning of the quarter, and by the end they want to spend everything so that they can get that same budget or even more in the future. So if you look at the quarters and you see fluctuations, try to see if it connects up with the time of the year, and try to do reports that are year-long rather than just you know, by day or by week in any given month, because you may see that the fluctuations that you're really concerned about are actually just the advertisers adjusting their budgets for the time of year that you are in. You know, this is Google AdSense's recommendation. You know, they want you to use the best performing ad size, and they say that those are 720 by 90, 336 by 289, 16 by 600, and 320 by 100, the mobile banner. You know, this is a trial and error thing, and it's going to be different for every site. So this is what Google AdSense says, but you'll just have to see what is working on your site. The other thing you want to take a look at, according to AdSense, is how many advertisers you are blocking. You can block specific advertisers, especially the ones that are unwilling to pay more than a certain amount for clicks. And you know, the goal of doing that is the hope that you will only fill ads by advertisers who are willing to pay more. But if you block too many, then there just isn't enough inventory on your site, and you may actually have users come into your site where the ads are just blank because there's no advertiser there who's willing to pay as much as you would like to show the ad. And the other thing is to make sure that you're opt in your ad units to show both text and display ads. I run everything responsive and let Google handle most of it. I don't do auto ads at all, though, I'm just saying. So what else then might be happening? If you are already have the show rate, to be, you're not blocking anybody. You just want the fill rate to be 100%. You don't care what it is. You are using all of the ads that they are showing. You say, well, what else could be happening here if this isn't a quarter-based thing? Now you have to understand how ads actually show up on your site, how AdSense actually connects the advertiser, the business, the people with your site. And what they have is an auction. And so in this auction, AdSense only considers ads that are relevant to the user or to the content on the site. And so one of these we can control and one of these we cannot. So the user, and you've seen this probably going around the internet, you'll be on a site like looking at cars, for example, car parts, and you'll see an ad for a backpack or for shoes or for a medical device or something that you may have seen elsewhere on the internet. You're being retargeted for this particular product on a site about cars. So this is an ad that's relevant to the user that has nothing to do with the content on the site, nothing to do with what you as a publisher can do. And you can't control anything about that whatsoever. But the content on your site is something that you can control. And you see, if you just search around on the internet for any sort of article about it, you see people posting articles about the highest earning niches for display ads, and they talk about insurance and lawyers and cord blood and adoptions. I mean, and there are, these are apparently the highest earning niches where people will click on it on the site. And if you want to try to target those areas, you can create content on your site in the hopes that an advertiser will show an ad and somebody will click on it. Just it's the same content, the same sort of ad, and then earn more money that way. But again, there's only so much of this as you can control. Another thing you can and you can't control necessarily is where in the world your visitors are coming from. Now, if you are a site that you primarily get visitors from tier 1 countries, and when I say tier 1, we mean the countries in the world that tend to spend the most on products, and so that's the United States, Canada, the UK, Australia, New Zealand. If your traffic is from those areas, you're more likely to make more money per click than, let's say, if your traffic is coming from other area of the world that don't fall in the tier 1 category. Now, that's not to say that you can't make a lot of money per click from Middle East or from Asia. There just has to be an advertiser there who is willing to pay a lot of money for those clicks. So you'll have to have content that's competitive, that someone out there wants to do that with. But in general, if you want to change your website to try to increase the CPC, you want to look for content that is targeting those visitors, that makes your content available to tier 1 countries. And if for some reason all of a sudden you see an influx of people from, coming to your site from other places in the world that aren't tier 1 countries, this could be the problem with your CPC. This could mean, you're getting all of a sudden, there's a rush on a particular game or a particular product or something coming from people who are in China. That could potentially impact your CPC, and there's not a lot you can necessarily do to prevent people from these countries from coming to your site. So just know that the origin of those folks can have an impact on your site. Another thing that can impact what you are earning is your ad layout. Like, there are some advertisers that only want their ads shown, in specific places, a sidebar or a header or in content. And so if you've made changes recently to your ad layout, that could change how much people are willing to bid to have ads shown on your site. So if you are making changes to your site, or you did make changes to your site, take a look back to see if you can find a correlation between the change that you made and the changes in your earnings. Another thing that can happen that can change your CPC dramatically, and this goes up and it can go down, is the competition for your inventory, meaning the competition to show ads on your site. Now, this is going to be less about the user and more about the content on your site or the traffic to your site. If you have lots of really good tier 1 traffic, and it's about a content area that is really competitive, that can dramatically increase your CPC. But if the competition changes for your inventory, for your site, for the content that you have that can make that CPC drop. Seasonality is one of those times where we'll see dramatic increases and decreases in how much you're earning through Google AdSense. Excuse me, let me get some water. So if your content is seasonal and you maybe never tracked this before, you may see that your CPC goes up dramatically during the summer, or it goes up dramatically in December around the holidays, or it drops off dramatically in January and February or in the spring. Another thing that can impact your CPC, and this may be something you can control or not, is macro trends. And this can have to do with the user, and this can also have to do with the content on your site. If there is some sort of content on your site that is trending in some way, in a really small way, and you may not even necessarily be able to track what it is, or you may be able to, it could be macro or micro. There may be a trend that goes up and goes down within your site, and there's some content on your site that's relevant to that. And it could mean that advertisers want to compete more to have their ads shown on that particular site. The opposite is true for users. Like, let's say that there is something that is trending for the particular user, like that user searched Air Jordans that were released in 2018, and that ad has been following around that user for every site that they go to for weeks and weeks or days or whatever, and they finally decide to click on it on your site. That can be a real boost for you because that may have been a really high earning click, but that is associated with a trend, and you may get more clicks just because there's some sort of trend going on that you don't have any control over. You may not even know what it is because it's a trend that's associated with the user and not with you. Another thing that can happen, and this never really occurred to me until I started preparing this video, but it's possible that users have begun to click on ads that earn you less. The advertisers are bidding and want to spend more on the ads that are near the top, above the fold, things that the user lands on when they first get to your site. Those tend to be the ads that get clicked on the most, and there's more competition for inventory for those specific spots. So if you are all of a sudden having more users who are clicking through, right, your click-through rate remains the same, but instead of clicking on the top ad, they are clicking on the bottom that has less competition for it, or one of the in-article ads, or on the sidebar, or something else completely different that they have never clicked on before, maybe because there's a new placement or a new ad that's really awesome or whatever. That can impact your earnings and your CPC per click. So, it can sort of solve that question of, okay, well, I have the same amount of people clicking and the click-through rate is the same, and everything is the same, but the CPC is just different. And we don't necessarily always know which of our pages are doing the best, where the clicks are necessarily coming from, unless you tailor an ad to every single page on your site. And if you have a small site, that can work, but if you have a large site, you just have to go look at your ad units and see if maybe one of them is all of a sudden getting more clicks than the other, and just track and make sure you know which ads are doing what, and maybe you'll be able to go back and track the changes to your CPC through that. You say, okay, well, what are some solutions? Then you say, I used to have a great CPC and now it really sucks and I want to try and get that back. I would do some testing. I would test your ad placement to see if changing the placement of your ads on your site can improve the CPC. I would also look at adding additional content, focusing on tier 1 countries, maybe looking at trends coming in the future, looking ahead to Google Trends or whatever you have, whatever knowledge you have in your particular genre, to try and look ahead to what may be a competitive niche in the future. If your stuff is seasonal, really loading up the content ahead of time so that you can get more traffic that's higher quality through there. Another thing you consider is jumping from the ad network that you are using and test another one. I'm actually doing this now. I use Google Adsense, but I am testing Setup Ads, which is an ad network that I recently heard of, and I just want to see how it is that they compare, because I have one site that has a lot of traffic, but the CPC is just really low and the click-through rate is just really low. And so I want to see if maybe changing an ad network will assist in helping me boost what the earnings are for this site. But in general, the CPC, there's a limit to what we can control. But if I want to try and target tier 1 countries, I want to target competitive niches that are high earning. Those are things that I can focus on. They're things that I can do. And primarily what you want to do more than anything is drive as much traffic to your website as possible, because if there are no people, no humans going through your site and no humans clicking on your ads, then there is no money. So you can spend hours, hours really thinking about the ad layout, right? Or you could spend that time creating new content, finding new ways to drive people to your site. Make a YouTube video and try to drive more people through there, or focus on your social media, or whatever it is you are doing. But that could be the solution to a major earnings drop with Google AdSense. Do you have any thoughts or solutions or questions about a funky CPC? Leave them in the comments. Let's talk about it. What are people's experiences, and maybe we can try and figure out together, what is going on. Is there a change in Google AdSense that nobody has published about, or that we really know about? It's really good to get the community talking. And what I found is that the Google AdSense display ad community is fairly quiet, and maybe that's because these folks are people that like to work behind the scenes, and they don't like to publish about themselves. And of course you would be drawn to that type of business, right? One that you don't have to get out in front. You can hide behind the scenes and just publish content and not do a video like this and talk about it. But if you have questions about, your CPC is going up and down, let's talk about what might be happening and see if we can come to a consensus about maybe what happened or what can be done, and hopefully that discussion will help other people. If you watched this whole video, I'm so glad that you did. If you want to see more videos or be notified about more videos, we're talking about AdSense, display ads, building a passive income business through content-based websites. Please subscribe to the channel or give me the thumbs up and let me know that this video was helpful to you. And finally, leave me a comment, just that you watched the video, if you got anything out of it, or if you have any other suggestions for me. I'd love to hear it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.